Hey, how's it going? So I'm going to be covering version 8 of TanStack table. I'm going to link the GitHub repo in the description below. And also I'll be following this guy course. So I'll show you. So you see, I will do everything exactly
Hey
the way
guys,
he's
my name is
doing.
Vishwas and welcome to a
So
brand new tutorial.
I'll be doing everything he's doing, like the same structure, only he's done it in version 7, and I'll be kind of like translating into version 8. So if you're not familiar with the React table and anything feels very, very difficult, you might want to do version 7 first before you transition to version 8, because there are a lot of fundamentals in version 7 in that course that you really just need to understand. So I'm just saying that, try to follow version 8, this one that I'm doing right now, and if you're struggling, maybe do this one first. Also, I want to give maybe credit to this guy because
Okay,
he
guys.
basically, you see he's doing version 8 as well. So he done basic table, pagination, sorting, and global filtering. So I'm kind of branching off it, and I'm doing like basic table, pagination, and sorting is gonna be exactly the same. Only I'm basically adding what is missing in this course, including going through the basic steps as well. Alright, so I'll try to make it beginners friendly, and that's gonna be the structure. So it's gonna be 6 videos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then off we go. It's exactly the same structure as in here. Because if you look at his the titles, they're exactly the same. The only difference is that I added merging cells together as a bonus. It's super easy to do, so yeah. Okay, so let's get started then, right? So the first thing we need to do, we need to create some kind of folder. So we're gonna do TanStack YouTube version React table version 8. So we're gonna create this. Then we're gonna go to, probably gonna close this, open new, open folder, there you go. This one here, open. Okay, so now we need to install create React app. I'm not gonna do it in TypeScript because it might be a bit too long. You can find how to do TypeScript on the... It's exactly the same, only all the definition is gonna be in the TanStack documentation. Like, you can literally find it. So we're gonna do... Okay, so we need to type npx create React app latest probably. And then, okay, so we are already in a folder, so we don't need to name it. So we just click on this thing. I'm gonna pause so you don't have to look at it. Okay, so we go to docs. Just put in a TanStack table, version 8 docs, guide migrating. So when you type this thing, you're gonna be here. Table, get started. And then migrating to V8 here. Okay, so we need to install this thing here. So let's install this thing here. In the meantime, we can do some cleanup, because I think app has a lot of stuff in it, right? Yeah, so I'm gonna remove, whoops, yeah. Actually, yeah, we'll just keep this app thing. Because we need import React from React. No, let me just zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Okay, so this thing has installed. Let's check. Yeah, we have the table here. Oh my god, everything's so big. Okay, so let's create a folder, components, and then create new file, call it basic table.js. Okay. Okay, so we need to npm start. So there's nothing here, so we need to put components like this. Import basic table, and then basic table like this. Okay, so we're gonna style it later. Okay, so let me just pause 1 sec. So I'm gonna have to tick the boxes. So that's the installation. We probably need to do data creation in here as well. So for data creation, we are going to go to... So we're gonna go to Mokaru, this one here. Okay, so mokaru.com. I'm gonna put this in description below. I'm just making notes. So, okay, so we probably want the phone number, gender, I don't know, email. Whatever, let's just add the phone number. So this is gonna be phone. Probably date. We probably need to add date as well. Yeah, because date is very good to see how to format. Okay, so generate data. I think it's like this. Oh my god, I done 1000. Okay, so we need to select this as a different format. As a JSON. Let's do preview. Yeah, we're gonna do 100 rows only, so we don't need to do the whole thing. Okay, so take this data, and then we're gonna put it in the components. You can put it anywhere you want, but I'll just put it in here. So we're gonna do data.json. And that's it, this is done. Okay, so this is this step done. Next is creation of column file. So you can put columns either into... Like some people define columns in here, but I prefer to do it in a different file. So we're gonna do columns.js. Right. Okay, so there are 3 ways to define columns, actually, right? So I'm gonna show you the easiest one first. Like, this is by far the easiest way to do it. So we do column definition, like this, const column def equals an array, and then every object inside of the array has to correspond to what's inside the data. Right, so I'll show you. So the most important is called Accessor key. What is it complaining about? Oh yeah, okay. So Accessor key is when it's going to look at the data, like what is this thing here? So it's asking you what's the key from the object that it needs to link to this accessor key. So we can just copy and paste ID in here, which is gonna be ID. Right, so now you type header. So header will be what's gonna be corresponding in your table as a header. So let me just pause. Actually, it's very hard to explain. Like, a lot of the stuff is hard to explain. You just have to see it. So I'm gonna do step by step. So we're gonna call this header ID. Alright, so let's call it header ID. So now we've done ID. Alright, so next one is gonna be... What do we have next one? We have first name and last name. Okay, so let's copy this. So this will be this thing, and then let's call it header first name. Like, you get the idea, right? So we probably want second name as well, so last name is like this. And then this will be header, last name. Let's do email. Now note, you do not have to define all of them. So if you do not want to define gender, you don't have to, it will just work. But it will just not display it, if you know what I mean, like you're just gonna skip it. Header email. So email, gender we're gonna skip, IP we're gonna skip, phone we're gonna skip, let's do date. And then we're gonna do date. So date. Now it's very important that the accessor key correlates to this, otherwise it's not going to work. Header, you can write anything you want in here. Header date. Because the header is gonna be your first columns. So think of a typical table, right? Think of a typical table. So these are gonna be your header. Right, so whatever you type in here is gonna be what's gonna be in here. Okay, so that's our column definition is done. Export const. Let's just export const. Okay. Okay, so now we need to create basic columns. Alright, so the first thing we do is we need to import a use React table from TanStack table. The second thing we need to do, we need to import our data, which is data from, well, let's call it, well, let's just call it data. It doesn't matter. Well, I don't know, main data. Because you see there's going to be a lot of datas inside the component, so you might get confused. So I need to separate them somehow for you. And then data.json. Well, I'm going to call it data.json. That's what I'm going to do. Alright, so data. And third thing we need to import are column definitions. So we need column definitions from column JSON. Well, honestly, we don't need data at the moment. We don't. Well, we do. We kind of. No, we don't. We don't need it at the moment. So forget about it. My apologies. So let's go back a step. We just need to column definition because I'm just going to show you how to create headers. right? So, okay. So what we need to do next is create a table instance, right? So table instance is gonna be const table. Now, normally people call it table, right? I like to call it table instance, just for demo purposes, because you might get confused, right? Where the value table is coming from. It's coming from table instance, right? And we do use React table. And here we create a JSON file. Okay. So the first thing that we put into the JSON file is column def is equal to column definition. So you want basically this to go into here. You can call this anything you want as long as this key is called column definition, and it will read off the... So, like inside of this JSON object, column definition is the key that use React table uses to understand the headers, basically. Okay. Okay, so now we are pretty much ready to create our table, right? So we can write here table. Now this does not have to be table, it can be a div, it can be material UI table, it can be boolean, or it can be a bootstrap table, whatever you want, right? So we need a table head, I think, right? I'm just reminding myself how to correctly do it. So I don't put anything into table head. Okay, so now we need to, in here we do table instance dot get header groups. And this is a getter function, so we call it, and it returns an array. So every time you're not sure about something, just console log it, right? So console log this thing, and then it will show you what's inside of it, right? Let's put test. Let's comment this out. Now you'll see a lot of mumbo jumbo probably. It's basically giving me errors. I think I know what the problem is. I think it's because it wants the data to be there. Otherwise it just doesn't want to work. So let's add data, which is data JSON from data, right? .json. Yeah. So now we put data is equal to data JSON. Let's see. Alright, I figured out what was giving me error. It was this should not be column def, like this. It should be columns. And then it will not give you an error. So if you want to see, so just console log test, and then table instance, and then we want to get, what was it? Header groups. Get header groups, like this. Yeah, so this will give us a array, and all of your headers are gonna be in here. So we're gonna be mapping through them. Okay, so we're gonna do, okay, so now we need to map it in here inside the table head. So we're gonna do table instance get header groups. So this is a getter function, so we call it, and then we're gonna map. And let's call this, now normally people call it header, but I'll call it header element, so you don't get confused. Okay, so header element. The next thing we need to put in here is, okay, let me close this. So then we need to return tr element, right? So this is going to be our table row. We need to put key, which is going to be header element dot id. I think it exists, right? Now you can console log to see what's inside of this thing. So just FYI, you can do it so you can see it. And then we need to, yeah, so I think that's about it. So this creates table row. Now we need to create columns, right? So we created a row this way. So now we need to create columns that will go this way. So we basically created a row. Now we need the columns in it. Okay, so we need to map again, and we're gonna be mapping every element from here. I know it's confusing, but I mean, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. So this will be our column element. Now in the, you can call it whatever you want, but in the official docs, I think they call it like a cell or something like this, but I call it column not to get confused, you know. So we want to return, and in here it's going to be a heading, so we want th. Key is going to be column element.id again. Okay, so now it's going to be a little bit, you probably need to just copy and paste this code. It's going to be in the repo, so you can just copy and paste it, right? So we want the flex render code, like this. We want to call flex render from here. So yeah, you need to add it. So when I was doing originally, it wasn't there. So flex render we add. We call flex render. Column element comes from here. Then dot column definition, and then header. So this will give you access to these values here. Essentially what this is this. Now why are we calling this thing? I have no idea. Get context. It's just, that's the way it is. It could be for re-rendering. I have no idea why that is. And then oh my god, hold on a sec. Whoops, I forgot. We need to header element dot headers dot map. So we're mapping headers. Here we want to pass column ID. We also want to have column spam. They recommend adding this, so we do column spam in th, right? There's gonna be column element dot column spam. Everything else should be the same. Okay, so now we have this thing here. Okay. Okay, so maybe we want to add a bit of styling on it so it looks a bit better. So where can we get styles from? We can probably get styles from repo of this guy. I'm probably gonna link it in the description below. Yeah, so we're gonna go here. Components, does it have styles? Table CSS, yeah, we're just gonna take this. And I'm gonna link this in the description below, so we do new file. Table CSS, like this. You probably want to import it. Import table CSS, and that should apply styles, right? Yeah. So now we have styles. So you see header ID, first name, last name, header email, and then date. Now I'm gonna change the names a little bit because they look not very good, so we're just gonna remove header basically from all of them, so it's easier to see. Okay, so now they are correct names. Okay, so that's the headers are done. Okay, I need to make a note to put this guy styles into the into the description. Okay, so headers are done. Alright, so another thing I want to show is how you can create there are multiple ways to create column definitions. So another way to do it would be to do like this: import so it's like this from TanStack table. So this is create column helper, and then we do const column helper equals to create column helper, and then let's change this slightly differently. So this is gonna be like this: column helper, which is this thing here, dot accessor. Now the first thing is we want to map it to whatever this thing is, right? So accessor is going to be ID, and then we create a JSON object, and then in here header, whatever you want to call it, like header ID, for example. Right, so you can see, and then we need to put this thing here like this. So you see now it's still the same. Okay, so this is, we're just gonna call it ID again, just with capital. Okay, so that's another way of creating it. There is a third way of creating it by using a function. I think there is a third way to do it. So third way would be like this, and it's very similar to this one. So let's do first name through. It's basically gonna be Accessor FN. So Accessor FN stands for function. It's still going to work. You can do it either this way, or I think it's like this. I think it's like this cell. Hold on a sec, let me just remember how to do it, and then I'll be back. Yeah, so it's basically row like this, row. Now row gives you access to things like this. Row, and then now you have access to keys, so you can kind of like manually add them. So you can do like this, return basically. Let's do template literal. So row dot and whatever this thing, how does that thing spelled? First name, like this. And then we need to put like this. I think this should still work. Yeah, you see? It still works, so you have first name. Well, let's change that to, I don't know, like this, so you'll be able to see that it's actually changing. Yeah, you see? Now, you're probably wondering, like, this is confusing BS. Why would you want to do this? And this is because you can merge cells this way. So you see right now we have last name in here, but if you want to add last name in here as well, you see you can just add it like this. And then this will be, but I'll show you how to merge cells later, right? Because we don't have data to demonstrate, but just bear in mind, but this row gives you access to keys like this, and then you can just basically create like any name you want or whatever you want, right? Okay, so this is basic table header is done, right? So our header is done. What are we doing next? We're doing the body next. Okay, so for body we definitely need our data. Of that I'm certain. So we're gonna import data. We'll call it data JSON from data JSON, and then we're gonna put data JSON. Okay, so one thing they are really recommending is that you need to wrap up your column definition and your data inside use memo hooks, because otherwise every time the table re-renders you're gonna re-render the data again. It can be like, because data can be like, I don't know, a million rows. It can be very expensive to do, so we're gonna do const final data equals react use memo. We're gonna wrap it inside the hook, and no dependency, and we're gonna do data JSON like this, and then we put final data in here, and we do the same for column definition. So final column def is equal to react use memo, and then we want to have no dependency, and we want column definition to be here. We want it to be like this. Okay, so everything is still working, all fine. Okay, so now we're gonna do table body, right? So we need C body, and we're gonna start mapping something in here. Okay, so we are doing table body. So in table body we don't put anything. Okay, now in here we do table instance. Oh, wait. We need to add a hook, I think. Yeah. Okay, so before that we need to go into here, which is our well, the framework, right? Get row table. Now, this is basically getting the hook from the framework. To inject the hook, you basically do the name of the hook, and then you call it because it's a get function, basically like this. So now you have access to all the rows. Alright, so now we have basically all of our data in there. So now we need to go into here with the table instance dot, and then we call the hook. No, we call get row model, like this. Yeah. So now inside of this thing there are gonna be rows, and then we're gonna map it. So we're gonna do row element like this. So this thing inside basically has all these things in it. Right, so next thing we do is we need to return table row. Here we need to put a key, row element ID. Okay. I think we have to be mapping something again, right? As far as I remember. Oh, yeah, 1 sec. Yeah, so now we need to map this thing inside the TR. So there's gonna be row element dot get visible cells, and this is a getter function, so we call it. This gives us visible cells, and then we're gonna map it, right? So this gives us a cell, basically. So cell element. Now you can call those these things whatever you want, but I mean I just call the cell. And then we're gonna return table description. Here we want to put the key, cell element ID. Yeah, and now we do basic flex, standard flex render, which is flex render. And then we need cell element dot. It's basically exactly the same as for. We can, to be honest with you, we can just copy and paste it. Only the slight difference is that we're targeting a cell as opposed to a header, right? So cell element dot get context. Like this, I think, right? Yeah. So you see now this gives us all the rows. So this is body. Okay, and the final one. So what have we done? We've done the body. Okay, footer. Honestly, the easiest way to create footer would be like this: t foot, and then just copy and paste t header into it. Now, why that is the best thing to do is because every time you do something with the header, you literally have to do exactly the same thing with the footer. So to avoid this replicated work, you can literally just put header into the tfoot element, and there it is, right? Then this will avoid you trying to consistently double job with the header. But I'll leave you to it to figure out how to do it with the header. I'll give you a hint. You've seen here there's header. You just have to put footer, whatever you want to call it, footer ID, right, for every single one of them. And then in here, you want to basically do get footer groups and then change everything to footer. You can console log stuff, so you'll be able to see what the names are, but they're basically footer. But to be honest with you, footer is something that really nobody does. So, like, it's an exercise for you to figure out how to do it, but to be honest with you, the best way to do it is just to copy and paste the header, and that's it. Okay? Alright, so this is part 1. Done. Then we're gonna, so part 2 is gonna be this stuff, merging cells, blah blah blah, which is gonna be next video. Okay? Take care, bye bye.